If you would, open up to Genesis 24. Genesis 24, while you're turning there or opening up your tablet or whatever you may be using, I will just reiterate there for the Fall Festival. The Fall Festival is not just for Woodland Park, for our kids and for their friends. This is a ministry of Woodland Park to our community, to our region, which means that it's church-wide, and we need as many people as possible to be a part of that. We can't invite hundreds of people to come onto our campus to be a part of a night if we got like 5 trunks and a couple of wonky games. So we need your help. And so if you're planning to volunteer, then please do so as soon as possible. You can do that online. If you're a part of a group that's going to be hosting a trunk together, then just designate one of you to go online and let us know of your plans to do so. But again, we got the next 2 or 3 Sundays to be able to hear from you so that we can know that we are equipped and ready for what we believe will be hundreds and hundreds that God will bring to us on that night. But again, it's church-wide. We need your help. Pray about how God would have you to get involved and then join us in that work. We look forward to that. We are in a culture, I think you would step back and say this to be true, we're in a culture that values people who get stuff done, like people who are busy, people who are active, people who are assertive, people who are ambitious. Employers look for people who sort of, and use buzzwords like they like self-starters and initiators. And in fact, we often evaluate the value of a person to an organization, to a church, to a ministry, to a business, to whatever the case may be, by how busy they are. The more stuff they're doing, even frantically doing, the more that they are sort of busy about doing in their daily basis, the more valuable we assume them to be for the organization. And the sort of worldly culture that we live in actually shames people who don't have sort of something going on all the time, who don't have a second job, a side hustle they're working through, or aren't constantly sort of on the run, busy and doing. They're seen as lazy, as being sort of slack in some way. But I think the question that if we are followers of Christ, if we would say that we have surrendered our lives to Him and to His Lordship in our lives, and I think one of the questions we have to wrestle with is it possible that we could be very busy doing a lot of stuff and yet be very unproductive as it relates to God's purpose and plan for our lives? Is it possible that we could do a whole lot of stuff and we do a lot of things, even in the name of God, be counterproductive to His purpose and His plan for us? Or if you're on the opposite extreme, and I acknowledge it, so I'm sort of leaning in that direction. I'm action-oriented. I like to see stuff done. If I see a need, I want to jump in and help meet that. Some of you would say, this is not a problem that I have. Like you're very laid back. You're very sort of content with whatever. You're more than happy to sit back and let others do and watch and observe from the sideline. And so that may not be an issue for you in that regard. But even if that's true, the reality is there are some things God has for you to do, and you can actually be so passive, so laid back, that there could be things that God is putting on your heart that you sort of push aside for others to do. So the real question is, what is it that God has for my life? What is it that God wants me to do, and how does He want to operate in and through my life for His purpose and for His glory? How do we differentiate between what God is initiating in our lives and those things that we are operating out of some sort of fleshly ambition, driven ourselves, or that we're allowing others to guilt or shame us into doing, that may not be God's plan at all? That's really what I want to talk about today. How do we know the difference between, and what is the difference between a godly initiative, a drive that is initiated by God, that is led by God, that is empowered by God, as opposed to being very busy doing stuff, but not really allowing God to do that work through us, and being about things that maybe God isn't leading us to do? How do we know the difference? Today we're continuing our series through the book of Genesis. And we're largely looking at the story of God's unfolding story written through these characters, these individuals, that moves from creation through the establishment of a covenant between God and Abraham, and now He is moving toward the establishment of a unique people for Himself called the Jews, the nation of Israel. And this is going to come about through these descendants of Abraham. And we're looking at Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, at their wives, and the story that is unfolding that way. And what we're seeing is that these are people who are like us, who are flawed, who at times are broken, but who experience the unique grace of God, who experience the blessings of God, and then become a source of blessing to others. And so we're calling the series Broken and Blessed. And the hope is that we are allowing God to speak into our story. And today we're going to look at the story of Rebekah. And Rebekah is a woman of action, certainly. She is assertive. She takes initiative. And there are times that she does so in keeping with God's will, in keeping with His initiating something in her life. She's trusting God, acting in faith. But we also see there are other times when she tries to take control. She tries to make things happen and what we're going to describe as sort of a fleshly ambition. And so what I would want us to see today is this, that God calls us beyond fleshly ambition to godly initiative. God calls us beyond fleshly ambition, just driven to do stuff, to a godly initiative. What is it that God is initiating in my life, and how do I operate in His power to accomplish it? This is critical for us as a body. This is one of the pillars of ministry, of the philosophy of ministry at Woodland Park. That true ministry is not the result of our commitment to God, what we profess and commit to do, but of our surrender, what God would do through us. That ministry is not accomplished through our striving, but through our surrender to Him. And so as we look at Rebekah this morning, what I would encourage you to do is to look at her story through a lens that allows you to look into the mirror and say, God, what is it that you're wanting to say to me and to my heart? How would you have me to evaluate my life and my circumstances so that I could be productive in ways that would honor you as I rely on your strength, your power at work through my life? So to be clear, so you don't freak out, we have two major points. So if I get through point one and you're like, we're 20 minutes in, so are we going at this for an hour? Got two main points, and that's really, I want to talk about these two things: godly initiative, fleshly ambition, hopefully see the difference, and then invite and encourage us to ask God to show us what He has for our lives that He's initiating for us in His strength. Well, let's look at Rebekah's story, and certainly, again, first of all, let's talk about godly initiative. And the moment we're introduced to Rebekah, she is clearly described, she is seen as a woman of action. She enters the story at a moment in Genesis when Isaac, his mother Sarah, has died. Abraham is getting older. One of the remaining things for him to do is to arrange a marriage for his son. Now that seems foreign to us because we're used to a culture where young people date and they get to know one another and they date multiple people and decide who they want to be with and who they sense God desires for us to be with. In that culture, moms and dads, parents would sort of get together and establish an arrangement to determine who was going to marry who. And so in this situation, Abraham knows that he needs to find a wife for his son Isaac, not from among the pagan people, but among the God-believing, God-fearing people, sort of family-related people from another land. And so he's old. He's too old to sort of make this journey. So he sends his most trusted servant. And he sends him 450 miles, and he carries with him 10 camels that are loaded up with all sorts of gifts, a variety of stuff that's meant to serve as a sort of a gift to and a part of this arrangement to bring this wife back for Isaac. So this servant of Abraham makes his journey on behalf of his master Abraham, looking for a wife. And here's where we pick up. Look at as he begins to pray in chapter 24. Look down at verse 12, and we'll read a few verses here. By the way, if you're looking for a spouse, prayer is a great place to start, isn't it? If you're not married, even if you're dating seriously, like the place to start, if you want to know what's God's plan and purpose for me, who does God want me to be with, a place to start is by asking Him and inviting Him to show you who that might be for your life. This is what this servant does. Verse 12 of chapter 24, he said, "O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show loving kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I'm standing by the spring, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. They don't have running water in their houses. They don't have like a hose or some faucet they can easily turn on. This is their means of providing water for themselves and their families. So this is the time of day when the women are going to be coming down to gather this water from the spring." And he says, verse 14, "Now may it be that the girl to whom I say, 'Please let down your jar so that I may drink,' and who answers, 'Drink, and I will water your camels also,' may she be the one whom you've appointed for your servant Isaac, and by this I will know that you've shown loving kindness to my master." Here's how I'm going to know who the girl is, Father, you would have me to take back for Isaac to be his wife. That she'll not only show common hospitality to offer water to me, but she will actually offer to water my camels as well. So verse 15, before he had finished speaking, before he can even get the words out of his mouth, before he can finish praying, behold, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was beautiful, a virgin. No man had relations with her. She went down to the spring. She filled her jar, and she came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please let me drink a little water from your jar." And she said, "Drink, my lord." She quickly lowered her jar to her hand, and she gave him a drink. And now when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw also for your camels until they have finished drinking." So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough, and she ran back to the well to draw, and she drew for all of his camels. So Rebekah doesn't go to the well that day looking for a husband. She's simply being diligent to honor her family, to honor God by doing a good job at what it is that she was tasked to do for that day when God arranges this meeting. And notice that the action words here, if you go back through, there are a number of these. But we see it says that Rebekah runs, she draws water, she fills jars. She's not asked to do any of these things. These are things she is diligently doing. She offers hospitality to this servant of Abraham. But she goes above and beyond the normal hospitality today, again, just offering him water, and actually says, I'll not only do this for you, but I'll actually provide water for all of your camels as well. Now, at first, that may not seem that big a deal if each camel only drank like a little cup of water. But I did a little bit of reading and found out that a camel can consume up to 25 gallons of water in 10 minutes. Now, she has 10 camels that she's going to provide water for, and she's carrying a water jar likely in that culture that holds about 3 gallons of water. So imagine, this is not like the well is here and she just dips her jar down. And no, it says that she has to go down to some spring and bring the water back up. So I don't know how many trips this young girl makes, but again and again and again and again, for the better part of an hour or more, we would assume. There's a lot of time, a lot of energy expended for her to go through this task of not only providing water for this servant, but to provide for these camels as well. And what she proves here is to be a woman of strength and beauty, of humility and industry, of kindness, and yes, a woman of initiative. So she takes the servant back to meet her family, to introduce them. He walks back through. I came into town. This is how I prayed. This is how God responded. This is what Rebekah did. This is what seems clear that God is doing. Here's what I've brought to provide for you. And their response, look down at verse 50. It says, then Laban and Bethuel, those are Rebekah's brother and her father, replied, the matter comes from the Lord. So we cannot speak to you bad or good. Here is Rebekah before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken. In some way, there is something verified through this moment, both for Rebekah and through her family now, that God is in this. God has arranged this. God has orchestrated this. God is a part of this, and therefore she is to do this. And so the next day, it seems overnight that Rebekah's family begins to they're like, oh, they begin to come to the realization that she's about to leave, and they want her to stay a little longer. And so they begin to talk with this servant of Abraham, and maybe she could stay another 10 days or something of that sort. And so he says, well, let's consult with her and see what she would say. And in verse 58 of chapter 24, they bring her in and they ask her, will you go with this man? And she simply says, I will go. And so she chose not to delay. She chose to, think about this, she's choosing to go and marry a man she's never met. She's going to a city where she has likely never been. And she chooses to do so not after delaying, not saying, hey, let me spend a little more time with my family. Let me spend a little more time getting things together. Let me spend a little more time with my dad. No, she's going to make this journey 450 miles to meet a man she hasn't met, to marry and to live in a place she's never been. Why? Because she and her family believe that, as we saw a moment ago in verses 50 and 51, that God has spoken. God has revealed truth to her. God has revealed a plan and purpose for her, and she is now acting in accordance with that plan, and the only response she knows is immediate obedience. I don't need to sit back and think about it. I don't need to linger a little longer at home. God is clearly in this. God is leading in this. Let's go and let's do this. We see another moment in her life a little bit later. Rebekah comes and she and Isaac marry, and they've been married for 20 years. God has given this promise of this covenant of descendants as numberless as the stars, and yet for 20 years they've not been able to have children. And at this point, Isaac is 60 years old, and so they're beginning to feel the pressure of this. And as we saw last week, Isaac, unlike his dad who tried to fix it on his own, he goes to the Lord in prayer. He's learned from his dad's example in this. He goes out, he cries out to the Father on behalf of his wife, and Rebekah becomes pregnant with twin boys inside of her. And as these boys are developing inside of her, she senses something is not quite right. So what do? She's a woman of action. She's a woman who takes initiative. She's a woman who's assertive. She's not a woman who just sits back to see what's going to happen. She needs answers. She doesn't know what to do. So what does she do? Well, look at Genesis 25. Look down at verse 22. These children inside of her struggle together within her. We might think maybe she ate some bad Mexican food or something, but no, she feels this struggle inside of her, and she said, if it is so, why then am I this way? If God is in this, if God is answering this, then why do I feel something's not right inside of me? So what did she do? She went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, verse 23, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples will be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. She knows something's not right. So what did she do? What did this woman of action do? She took the matter to the Lord, and God reveals to her that there are 2 leaders of 2 nations that are being shaped inside of her. And unlike the culture of the day, normally where the older will be over the younger instead is going to be over the older. God reveals something about the future of these 2 men that are growing inside of her. Interestingly enough, she's the only matriarch in the book of Genesis who receives a direct message from God in this way, who God speaks directly to her. And in part, it seems it's because she turned to God. When something is off, when she didn't know what to do, she knew where to turn. She looked at God and she was asking for wisdom, asking for revelation. God reveals truth to her, and then she responds as a result of the truth that she's received from God. What I would want us to see this morning is that in both of these instances, I think we find the key to living out of what I'm describing this morning as godly initiative. And it's this, that godly initiative is more than simply being busy and active and doing stuff. In both situations, Rebekah looked to God for wisdom, looked to God for revelation, and when God revealed truth to her, she acted in response to what he had revealed. She looked to God for direction, for affirmation, for clarity as to what it was he was wanting to do and was doing in her life and in her circumstances. And when God revealed to her that truth, then she responded by faith and in obedience to what God was putting in her heart. Now, the reason this matters is, ladies and gentlemen, is because I believe with all of my heart, and the Word of God makes it clear that God has a purpose and a desire for each of your lives and mine. God has things he wants to do through you. Not one of us was made or saved to sit back and watch, to sit back and simply wait for other people to do. We all have been created. We all have been shaped by God with design and for purpose. We are to be a people of action. But what is important is that we be sure that the action that we are engaged in is what God has for us, and that we are operating in his strength and not our own. We need to look to him, and we do that by looking to his word, by looking to calling out to him in prayer, by looking to others like Rebekah did. She looks to her family, her brother and her dad, affirm what she sensed God was saying in this moment. We look to others, godly people around us, and through those various means, God reveals truth to our lives, and then we say, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, then in obedience, I'm going to do this. Now, God, do this through me. I don't want to do it in my strength. Even if it's a godly and a good thing to do, Lord, don't let me do it in my power, in my might. This isn't about my commitment. This isn't about me saying, God, what I'll do for you. God, I'm surrendering to you so that you can do this through me and through my life. See, I think that in the church, we've often sort of painted this picture that faith is sitting back and doing nothing. That faith is that I wait and I just trust that God will do stuff, and I'll just sit back and watch and marvel at what God is doing. But I would say this, that kind of mentality can lead us to being passive, to being lazy, and actually could lead us to be disobedient. James 4:17 says, to the one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is what? It's sin. When God has clearly revealed something for my life, whether from his word or through prayer, through the work of the Holy Spirit, through his people around, when God has clearly revealed his will for my life, then for me to ignore that, for me to reject that, for me to sit back and say, well, I'm not an aggressive person. I'm not assertive. I don't say, I'm okay. Somebody else can do it. For me to respond that way is actually not just indifference, it is sinful. Sometimes in church we love verses like Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. See there, God says, be still. Don't do stuff. Just sit, be still, and God will do everything he's going to do. And he doesn't necessarily need you. He's not going to necessarily work through you. Just be still. But actually, the wording there in the original language is better sort of translated for us in the New American Standard, where it says, cease striving and know that I am God. And see, cease striving is not the same as cease working. Cease striving and know that I'm God is the idea of stop doing what you're doing in your strength and based on your wisdom, and acknowledge that there is a God and look to him for his wisdom and for his direction and for his power through your life. Include God in the process. Don't set out to do what you want to do or what you think is good. Ask God, seek his wisdom, and as he reveals, then let him work in his power in and through your life. You're not God. And that's okay. The sooner we acknowledge it, the better. You're not God. You can't fix every situation. You don't always know what to do. You don't have the answer to every circumstance, but you can look to God and seek his wisdom through, again, as Rebekah did. Ask for his wisdom, and when you've heard from him, then act upon what he has revealed. I can't fix every problem, but I can ask God the part he desires to play through my life and then trust his work in and through me to accomplish his will. And we won't do that perfectly. There are times that you'll blow it. There are times you'll not get it right, and God in his grace will use those moments to train you, to discipline you, to teach you, to instruct you, to help you improve as you grow and mature in your walk with him. But like Rebekah, we can act out of a godly initiative. We can look to God for wisdom, and God will reveal himself to us. See, in the church today, there can be a lot of what I'd call guilty Garys. A lot of us who do stuff not because God has prompted us, not because God is leading us, but because someone has guilted us into doing it. And you've now got a list of 10 things you're doing for God or for the church, 9 of which God had no say in whatsoever. It's just that somebody needed to do it, and you happen to be somebody that was on the scene, and you got talked into it, and you hate every moment of it. You don't feel called to it. You don't feel empowered for it. You're miserable while you're doing it, but somebody's got to do it, so you step in and you do it. There are a lot of, in the church, there can be some frantic Fridas who look around and again, who see there's a need, there's something that's got to be done. So if something's got to be done, I don't know who else to do it, so it's got to be me. And so you just get real busy doing a lot of stuff with no clear direction, no clear wisdom from God, no sense that God is actually leading, but it's just got to get done, so I've got to do it. There are a lot of passive Perrys, if you will, who are afraid they're going to make a mistake, and so I won't do anything. I'll sit back and somebody else can handle it instead of asking what God won't do through my life. But instead, Rebekah's a model for us that we need to seek what God has for us and then surrender to his work through us, to draw near to God, to let him shape our hearts, and then to allow him to work in and through us. And again, this is so crucial to me because I believe that God desires to accomplish something through your life. Not just through somebody sitting near you, not just through somebody who's going to be on the platform and got a microphone in their hand. No, God desires every follower of Jesus Christ in this room. God has a purpose and a plan for you. He wants to use your gifts, your talents, your experiences, the people you know, the places you work, where you go to school, everything about how God is shaping your life. God desires for you to put in front of him and to invite his work in and through you. To desire to do something great with your life and to make an impact in the world is not sinful. To be passionate, to be zealous, to take initiative are not necessarily worldly. And even if you're prone to, again, to being more passive, if you're someone that's much more chill, much more laid back, you're not driven by a whole lot, all of us, no matter what, we all want our lives to count. We all want our lives to matter. We all want to feel fulfilled in life. And the key to do that is to be sure that what's motivating us is not glory or attention for self. It's not a sense that I'm in control and I need to make things happen. But that God can be trusted, that God has a plan for me, and so I ask God what he wants me to do, and then I allow him to do his work in and through my life. So the question I would have for you this morning is, who is God to you? Is he the Lord and the master and the leader of not just all things out there somewhere, but is he the Lord of your life? Are you willing to take all that you are and to put it before the Lord? And whether you are 12 years old or whether you're 102 years old, are you willing to put it before the Lord and say, Lord, who I am and what I have, I place at your disposal for your glory. What do you want to do through me? How do you want to use my life? What is the purpose? Not what my parents want me to do, not what my friend would want me to do, not what someone in the church want me to do, not what my boss. Lord, what is it that you have for my life? How would you desire to bring glory to yourself through my life? How would you want to use me in my home, in my church, in my community? Lord, what are the issues that you keep putting in front of me that stirs something inside of me, that prompt me to feel like I should take action, I feel like you're wanting me to act upon this need, this area of brokenness, this struggle in our culture, in our church, in our world, in my family. God, but before I just jump in and take action, would you show me what you want me to do? How you would want to work through me in this circumstance so that you would be glorified? Imagine what the difference and the impact that Woodland Park could have. If every person in this room decided this morning that we're going to do that, we're going to go home and we're going to get on our face before the Lord and we'll say, God, what do you want to do through my life? And then whatever he would reveal to you, that you would do it. Imagine the impact we could have for the kingdom. We're called to operate out of godly initiative. But then I want you to notice secondly, and remember I only got two, so don't freak. But notice the opposite response, and this is something I wrestle with in my own heart, is a fleshly ambition. Rebekah was a woman of action, and there are those instances where she's seeking the Lord, where she is submitted to him, where she is being used by God, where she is honoring him through faith that leads to obedience. But there were also her propensity to action sometimes led her to respond in ungodly ways, to try to take things into her own hands, to seek to make things happen based on her understanding and her strength. Can anybody else identify with Rebekah in that way? Brian Kinlaw can. This is a great challenge, I think, of people of action face, including a lot of you. We see needs, we see concerns, we feel like something needs to be done, someone needs to act, something needs to happen. We need to do something to help. We want to make a difference. We begin to feel some measure of responsibility, not only for ourselves, but for the circumstances and decisions in the hearts of other people. And our world and even the church applauds those kinds of people, right? The people who see needs and just jump in. We love that. Like as leaders, we love people that just are go-getters and see a need and just jump in without having to beg them, without having to prompt them. And that's wonderful. It can be. But that heart of compassion and that heart of care can lead us to act outside of what God desires for us. And the results can be painful for us and for the people around us. That sort of fleshly ambition is often driven by this desire to prove ourselves or to maintain control, or this foolish notion that if it's going to be, then it's up to me. If it's going to be, I feel like I know what God wants to do, so I'm going to help God. I'm going to help me, because if I don't do it, if I don't make it happen, if I don't fix it, if I don't work it on it, if I don't make the difference, if I don't change the heart, if I don't offer myself, if I don't serve, then it's just not going to happen. And so we have to jump in. We have to do. And when we respond that way, we can make a mess. Rebekah, we see this if you know her story. In chapters 27 and 28, God has revealed again that Jacob, the younger child, the secondborn, is going to be the master over the firstborn. And so it seems that Rebekah sort of coddles him. He becomes, he's sort of mama's favorite. And Esau, his brother, who's more hairy and grisly and the hunter and the one that goes out and kills stuff and brings it back and cooks it for his dad. He's a more manly man than his dad. And so we sort of have this favoritism that's never good in a family, sort of picking favorites between the children. Isaac is getting older and he's virtually blind, and it's his final duty to carry out is to pronounce a blessing over his son. And that blessing is more than just like, be blessed. It is in that culture, it was a ritual whereby the father is saying, you're now the head of the home. You're now the head of the family. You're now the leader of this clan of people. You're now going to be the one that God's going to use to guide this family. You're the recipient of this covenant in Abraham's case, that it is passing from Abraham through Isaac now to the son that would receive this blessing. It's a sort of a legalizing of his will. And Isaac is about to do this for the older son, because that's culturally appropriate at that time, for Esau. He says, Esau, go out and kill an animal, bring it back, cook a stew and bring it, and I'm going to enjoy it, and then I'm going to pronounce this blessing over you. I'm going to take this official step. Well, Rebekah hears this. Look down at chapter 27 and verse 5, and we see her action, her springing into action. Rebekah was listening while Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game to bring home, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, behold, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau, saying, bring me some game, prepare a savory dish for me that I may eat, and I will bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, so now this is Rebekah speaking to Jacob, the younger son. Now therefore, my son, listen to me as I command you, to me, not to God, to me. Go now to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats from there, that I may prepare them as a savory dish for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall bring it to your father, that he may eat, so that he may bless you before his death. And Jacob responds to his mother, behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Remember later on that, by the way, that the way he's going to cover this up is his mom's going to have goat hair and put it on his hands and on the back of his neck, so that when his dad touches him, he'll feel it. I've often thought like Esau must have been like Chewbacca. Like he's quite the hairy dude, right? Behold, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I'm a smooth man, but perhaps my father will feel me. He'll touch, and then I will be as a deceiver in his sight, and I will bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. He knows what he's doing is not, this isn't honoring of his dad. This is deceptive. It is not appropriate. Verse 13, but his mother said to him, your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go get them for me. Now, Rebekah's had this revelation from God that the younger is going to be over the older, that in some way that God is going to carry out his covenant through the younger son, through Jacob. She's acting on that revelation, but she's doing so, again, in her own strength instead of a trust in God. She has a sense of what it is that God desires to do, but she's trying to accomplish it now in her own power and in her own way. And so she springs into action. God has not prompted this in her. God has not led her to do this, but because she feels she must make sure the right thing is done. Somebody's got to make sure the right thing is done. This is not going the way that it's supposed to go. And so I've got to spring into action. I got to do something. And she's now willing to do anything. She's willing to resort to anything to bring about what she thinks is right. So she devises this plan and she cooks up this scheme along with her stew, and she sends in Jacob, and it works. Isaac is tricked. He pronounces the blessing over the younger son, Jacob, and the immediate results are tragic. Because here's what unfolds. She made her son a liar. She deceived her husband, who is heartbroken by these events. She creates this strife between Jacob and Esau. Esau vows that he's going to kill his brother now. And he will not relent. He will not let up until his brother is dead. Jacob is forced to flee. He becomes a fugitive. And in fact, Rebekah never sees him alive again because of these decisions. And some may say, well, but the end result is okay, right? I mean, doesn't the end justify the means? I mean, at the end of the day, God said the younger is going to be over the older, and God sort of uses this to work that out. So at the end of the day, isn't it all okay? As long as the end works out, then it really doesn't matter how you get there. Oh, friends, what we find in the Word of God is, again, it does not honor God to do a sinful thing, a dishonoring thing, to act outside of God's will in order to try to accomplish some good purpose. It's never right to do the wrong thing. Rebekah feels this amazing need to control the situation. It's clear she doesn't trust God. He apparently isn't big enough, sovereign enough to bring about his will, so she needs to help God. So she steps in and she's going to make something happen. And see, that's the danger of what I'm describing this morning as fleshly ambition, that our good motives can lead us to wrong actions because I trust self instead of trusting God and looking to him and asking what he wants to do through my life. And I'll tell you some practical ways that this can show up. For example, there's somebody in your life that you know that you desire, that the longing of your heart, and it could be a child, it could be a grandchild, it could be your spouse, it could be a parent that doesn't know the Lord, and you know the truth of God's word. If they die apart from Christ, they're going to spend eternity separated from God. And you feel this weight of burden and responsibility to see them come to faith in Christ. And so what do? You press. You get aggressive. You try to shove it down their throat. And it's out of a good motive. It's out of a heart that desires to see them saved because you're afraid they're going to spend forever in hell. But what you can end up doing is pushing them farther away instead of drawing them near, because you're operating in your wisdom and in your strength instead of waiting for God to do his work. That instead of trusting that God transforms hearts and believing that and allowing God the room to do that, you feel like you've got to be the one to change them. And you make a mess. Or out of a desire to see a ministry grow. There are a lot of pastors and a lot of leaders and attempted at all times to take matters into our hands and to operate based on what works. And so whatever will bring more people and whatever will make the majority happy and whatever will get people to give more money, then let's do that, and the ends will justify the means. It doesn't matter how you arrive there, but as long as you arrive at a good place, then it doesn't matter how you get there. And you can end up creating a big mess. Or think about us as parents or grandparents. We want our kids, and I think it's God-honoring. We want our kids to be safe. We want our kids to be healthy. We want them to experience good things in their lives. And so as a result of that, oftentimes we can be so overbearing, we can be so controlling, we can so interfere that we can paralyze them with a dependence not on God, but a dependence on us. And so then they grow up as sort of emotional cripples who don't know how to make a decision for themselves, who don't know how to seek the face of God on their own, who don't know how to look to wisdom. The only thing they know to do is to call mom and dad to rescue them every time trouble comes. Because why? Because we haven't shaped and trained them to trust in God. We've shaped and trained them to trust in us. Fleshly ambition grows out of a failure to seek God's wisdom and to trust His power and His timing and to feel that it's up to me and to take on a responsibility that's not mine. I am responsible for my response to what God is prompting me in my heart and in my life. But I can't be responsible for you. I can't make decisions for your life. I can't change your heart. I can't make you do the right thing. I can't force you to be wise or to follow God, whatever it might be. I can't do that to you. I can't do that for my kids. I can't do that for my wife. I can't do that for this body. I'm not responsible for the heart of anybody else. I can't be. And if I begin to think that I am, then I am placing myself in a position that only God can occupy. And if I live out of that, then I will make a mess, not only for me, but for people that I dearly love. And some of you feel the weight of that, man. You've lived your life, and anytime somebody in your family is upset, it is your responsibility to make them happy. And anytime somebody at work is bothered and they're not satisfied, then you've got to spring to action and make sure that they're happy with their job. And anytime that somebody in your small group or in our church is struggling a bit with something, then you've got to spring into action and make sure that everything's okay. Because if you don't do it, nobody will. If it's going to be, then it's up to you. You've got to make it happen. And the result is that, listen, you can be exhausted and overwhelmed and very busy, but accomplishing very little for the kingdom of God. See, this to me is the beauty of the gospel. It's to recognize that we're not in control. We're not strong. We're not wise. We are weak. We are frail. We are broken. But we know and serve and love and live before a God who is all-powerful, who is good, who is gracious, who is kind, who is merciful, who oversees all things, who has all power, who is good in our lives, and we can trust Him. Back to Psalm 46 and verse 10, cease striving and know that I am God. That psalm was written many years after this story of Rebekah to the people of God, the nation of Israel, at a time when they were facing perilous times in many ways. But God was in essence saying to them, stop trusting it. If you look at the context in that psalm, stop trusting in your military might. Stop looking to pagan gods. Stop seeking other idols. Stop looking to your own strength. Cease striving. Again, this isn't a call to stop working. Cease striving means stop doing what you've been doing. Stop living and acting as if there is no God or as if you're God and you're in control. Be still and listen and pay attention to what God is saying and doing. Cease striving and know that I am God. He is God. You are not. He is God. You are not. He is God. You are not. You cannot be. You never will be. And the sooner you acknowledge that He's God and you are not, the sooner you stop living without including God in your equation, the sooner that you release your need to control and fix and maintain and yield your life to Him, then you can begin to learn from Rebekah's example and cease to operate out of your control and your authority and your strength and your understanding. And if it's going to be, then it's up to you. So you've got to make it happen. And instead you can turn your heart to God and say, God, what do you want to do through my life? Show me the stuff I need to stop doing, and then show me what you want me to do, and then, God, you come and do it through me for your glory. See, God calls us to move beyond passivity. We are to be productive. The New Testament is full of imperatives. It's full of commands. It's full of calls to action. But we're to be a people whose action is driven by a godly initiative, not by our own fleshly ambition. And my prayer is that today we together would declare before the Lord something like this, to say, God, today we die to fleshly ambition and we live out of godly initiative. We will act as you lead and only in your strength. We surrender today our need for control and the unhealthy sense of our responsibility to fix everything and everyone. We will ask you for wisdom, and your word says in James 1:5 that you will give it. Spirit of God, you have indwelled us, and therefore you will provide the power that we need to accomplish your work for your glory as we live and surrender to you. Now, God, come and do your work through me. Cease striving. Maybe this morning that's what God is saying to your heart today. Stop striving. And that involves an initial surrender where I acknowledge that he's God and I'm not, and I surrender my life to him, that I trust Christ has dealt with my sins, so that through faith in him I can be saved, I can know God, I can live for his glory. And maybe that's the step that God would have you to take. Or maybe it's not just that initial surrender, but it's that ongoing surrender of your circumstances to say, God, would you show me? I'm busy, I got a lot of stuff going on in my life, but Lord, would you show me what it is that you have for me to do? Give me the wisdom that I need about what you desire to do through my life. And then, Lord, I pray you would do it not in my strength, but in yours. Maybe you have taken matters into your own hands, and maybe there are some people that you have hurt in doing so that you need to go to them. It may be that lost loved one to say, you know what, I love you so much, and I so desire for you to be with me, with the Lord in heaven one day, that I've been pushy with you. And I feel like as a result, I've really not helped point you to Jesus. I've really been a model of trying in my own strength, and I'm sorry. I've not done that well. Some of you may need to go home and tell your spouse, you know what? When challenges have arisen in our marriage, instead of seeking God and what he wanted to do to make it right, I've tried to spring into action in my own strength, and a lot of times I've just pushed you farther away. I'm sorry. Some of you may need to say to one of your kids, you know what, out of my love for you and my concern for you and my desire that you would be healthy and strong and happy in life, I've been really overbearing, and I've been really controlling, and I've been very interfering at times, and I'm sorry. I don't want you to place your confidence in me. I want you to put your confidence in the Lord. Maybe this morning God keeps putting something in front of you, a need or a burden or an issue. It could be in our culture, it could be in your workplace, it could be in the church, it could be, and it's something that he keeps putting in your face again and again and again. And there's some gnawing sense inside of you that there's something God wants to do through you, but you don't know what that is. And so instead of just springing into action and starting to do stuff, maybe you just say, God, would you show me how you might want to use my life in that circumstance for your glory? And friends, based on James 1:5, if you'll ask him for wisdom, he will give it in his time and in his way. And then based on the presence of the Spirit of God, he will empower you to do whatever it is that he's leading you to do. So could we bow our heads and just for a moment, just seek the Lord's face for just a second? I'm going to invite our worship team to come, and we're going to respond in worship in just a moment in a song of declaration that says, Lord, you're great. And it'll be our way of declaring the greatness of God as a reminder to ourselves to cease striving and know that he is God. He is in control. He is on the throne. He is trustworthy. But would you just pause right now and just say, Lord, would you, in the days ahead, would you show me how you want to use my life, where perhaps I'm taking responsibility that's not mine, where I'm being pushy and you're working out of some sort of fleshly ambition and where I need to surrender to you. Would you show me if there are any relationships that I need to make right where I've not handled things well? Lord, would you show me if there are some areas of my life where you're putting the need in front of me and I know I'm supposed to do something, I just don't know what. And so God, would you show me what's God speaking to your heart today that you need to lay down or that you need to take up, not based on what you think or what you desire or what you can do, but based on what God is doing and desires to do through you. Ask him, as he did for Rebekah, to reveal his truth to your heart. And then as we sing now, as we stand and sing in just a second, may we stand and sing and declare how great God is as a reminder and as a declaration to one another and from our own hearts that he is God and we are not, and we'll trust him. Father, would you let us do that even now? May we in the days ahead hear from you, gain clarity from you about what you want to do through us. May we live not out of a fleshly ambition that feels the drive and the need to always just be busy and doing stuff and we've got to make it happen and it's up to us.